Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Create Your Own Reality podcast, where we share stories and practical tips to help you level up your mindset, reconnect with your purpose, and boost your confidence. If this is your first time listening to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're able to take something from this episode to turn your day from good to great. Let's get into it. Today, we're actually just going to be expanding slightly off of last week's episode because I finally completed my Pilates teacher certification. I had my final test out on Thursday and I passed. So I am officially a fully certified Pilates instructor, which is still so crazy to say. And I think the thing that was crazy to me was the immediate thought in my mind, like after my master trainer had told me that, I passed and congratulations and all the things, was, okay, what's next? Because throughout this entire process, even after completing one part of it, it was always exciting, but then you knew you weren't done yet. You knew there was another part of the program that you still had to continue working on. You still had hours you needed to complete, or you still had the final test out part of it that, of course, you needed to do to finish. But now that that is all said and done, it just feels weird to accept that. I mean, it was amazing. Like, it is amazing that I am done. That was definitely like my biggest goal of the year going into this year. Of course, as an ambitious person, there are still quite a number of goals that I have for myself for the second half of the year. But yeah, a lot of that a lot of those things just go back to what I was mentioning last week about just more general ideas or things that I want to do versus concrete goals. Again, if you've been following along for a while, my Pilates teacher certification was a set goal that I wanted to be done with by July. And I did that. Even though it was a very much down to the wire, I still accomplished that goal. And that is the important part. I spent a lot of time being mad at myself that I waited so long to finish the program. But yeah, I can't revel in that. I can't change the past. I am just very excited that regardless of what happened, regardless of the things that led me down, that path of taking a little bit longer, I got it done. And, as someone who is an overthinker and again, a semi-recovering perfectionist, if you will, I don't know. I feel like things always need to be done a proper way or correctly. Otherwise, it's not perfect, right? But I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is that you finish the goals that you set out to accomplish, regardless of how long it takes or how exactly it happens. Holding yourself accountable and actually getting those things done is something that not many people can really relate to in a lot of areas. And so I am really proud of myself, of course. But I think also I was just thinking about it afterwards, and I think the next, of course, important step in moving forward, just in terms of any career or business or endeavor in life, there are ways to progress and there are ways to improve. And, that's always something that's exciting to me in every area of life. And with this particularly, I think I had that realization of, okay, great. I'm transitioning from being an apprentice to a fully certified instructor. Now, even though that is a very important transition as it marks the completion of my training program, I'm also essentially just getting started as an instructor. And I think that's also something that, I have to acknowledge, of course, and just be aware of. Most of the other teachers that I encounter and that work at the same studios as me, some of them have been teaching for years and years, right? So I can't hold myself to that same standard of them. And, it can be so easy to do that, especially when, the students walking through the door, they don't know, how long each of us have been teaching. I mean, they may know how long we've been at that specific studio, but I'm sure many of them aren't asking the teachers individually, oh, like, how long have you been doing this? Like, where did you get started? And all of those things. But, that's something that I really made a point of doing when I was still going through the program and, observing classes and just other instructors. I, really asked a lot of them how long they've been teaching because, as I watched their class and as I kind of observed their own teaching style and the things that the things that I noticed maybe they were stronger at than others, it was, kind of important to me to gauge, again, like that comparison of how long they've been teaching to what their class looked like versus what I know I do in my own classes, etc., etc. I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but all that to say, I know that there's still a long journey ahead of me. And that's actually really exciting to me. And I love that about myself. I think that just comes with being an ambitious person, which again just brings me back to that question of like, what's next? But yeah, to tie that question back into last week's episode, right? That whole idea of asking what's next really goes back into the idea of hard work and goal setting. Because now that I've hit this big goal that I've had for myself, in my Pilates journey so far, I need to figure out what those next milestones will really be for me. And again, some people might not even go to that mindset immediately. They might just be super excited about having finished the program and, in their mind, it's like, okay, great, I'm fully certified, like, yay. And again, don't get me wrong, like, I'm very proud of myself and I do acknowledge that I did put in a lot of hard work to get to this point. But again, I think just me knowing myself and my strengths and where I'm at right now, it's also just very exciting to know that there is still so much to improve on and there is still so much to do moving forward. So yeah, I hope that was a little insightful for you guys. I know it wasn't anything like super specific, but I think, that is a great perspective and mindset to have for your own life and any endeavor that you are currently in or moving into right now. Even career-wise, right? Maybe you're looking to get a big promotion or, get a higher position at a different company. I think it's always important to do an evaluation of yourself, where you are right now, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and just look at that other position or other place that you really want to be in. Figure out what the strengths and weaknesses or what the criteria, quote unquote, would be for that next step. and just make that comparison, because doing that alone will help you figure out the areas that you need to improve in, and also those next goals or milestones that you need to set for yourself. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to just take some time over this next week to write that out for yourself, almost as a mid-year evaluation, if you may. Just do a little check-in, because, I think a lot of people save that kind of thing for the beginning of the year, when really you can do it anytime at all. So just never put that off, regardless of what you're going through. If you are in a transitional period, I think that's definitely the best time to do that, because again, it really helps you evaluate where you are versus where you want to be, and those specific changes that you need to make in order to get there. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this episode, please be sure to leave a review and share it with a friend. Comment down below to share your takeaways with others, and join the email list from the link in the show notes. Until next time, stay motivated, be inspired, and don't forget to encourage others.